Congratulations, Maria.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron Ruckoff. I'm the executive editor of Bloomberg Green. Let me take my questions out. So what excites me so much about getting to do Green Docs is not just that we get to discover and spotlight so many talented filmmakers, and all the work that the finalists did was really superb and it looks so great up on the big screen. But we also get to help the winning director, presumably finance more work. And you told us this is part of a series, so I want to know more about how you're going to develop this from here. Like, what are your next steps?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is hugely exciting, and I didn't expect it, of course. We are working on this series for the past 6 months now. So we've just started. We have our second interview. We have a third story in mind, and by the end of the year, we should have 2 more storyboards and characters to show, and we're looking for a broadcaster also to support us with, full production of the series. But yes, the award will definitely go into the production of the series because we've been doing it out of enthusiasm a lot of the time, and now we really need to start structuring the work into real production, I'll say.
Can you give us a little preview of some of the stories that you've already decided to tell? What those climate migrants' experiences have been like?
Sure, they're all very different. So the second episode will tell the story of a guy from the island of Saint Martin that's split between France and the Netherlands at the moment. And it's a story of a guy who used to be a police officer with his own private business. And then Hurricane Irma happens and his life literally changes overnight. Like his business is up in the air, his house, everything he owns is gone. So he's repatriated to France. And it's a funny story because the French the French state is totally incapable of dealing with the situation. Like he tries to look for support and for housing, and they tell him, you've had very high income in the past few years, so you're not eligible for social housing. And he's like, yeah, but this hurricane just happened. And, so it's the story of this guy who uses his education to fight the French system to kind of get refugee status. And then the third one is a family from the island of Tuvalu in the Pacific. And they have issues with ocean level rising. So they also have some issues with the woman trying to conceive and having like these miscarriages. So at the end, they move to New Zealand and are the first family that's considered the first legal climate refugee. So they get this refugee status based on the reason why they're there for the first time.
Wow. Clearly like a very big breadth and diversity of stories coming from all over. Are you planning to work with the same animator that you used in the film that we saw tonight, or will it be a different artist doing the animations for each story?
So the style will be the same. It's Rusica Raleva and Nia Mečkueva are the 2 girls working on the visual style. And we will do animation depending on where we get the funding for the project, because animation takes the biggest chunk of the budget. So we're open to co-productions. We're talking to different countries, and we'll see where it happens. And also music was made in France. The composer is Pierre Oberkamp. So he'll continue doing the series with the same kind of music style.
I know that resonated with everyone that I talked to on the jury, how beautiful the animation was. You mentioned that the woman whose story we watched tonight, that you learned about that through a friend, and I have to imagine that can't be the source for all of these stories. So how do you research climate migrants? Where do you find the people who are at the center of these pieces?
So I've studied political science and then documentary film. But the political science part was at the Central European University, which was in Hungary and now got kicked off by the government. So it's now based in Vienna. It's one of these rare cases where university moves. And they have it's crazy. But they have a very good environmental program. And I've been working with recent graduates of the program who intern and do a lot of research to find these new stories through media and NGOs.
And I know we were talking last night. You mentioned trying to set up a system so that people could tell their stories through a website. Can you explain a little bit about your vision for that?
Yeah, so we have this idea that the series, we can also turn it into an interactive exhibition, so that at events like this one and bigger ones, we'll be able to project what we see in the future and also show these personal stories as examples of how people's life will change, basically. And we also have an idea to have an e-version of this exhibition where we would invite people whose lives have changed dramatically to share their stories. And that way we can have a connection and maybe include some of them in future episodes.
I love that idea. So I live in New York City. In my Brooklyn neighborhood, I see migrants, among us, and I know that some of them are climate migrants. You're from France, and I'm wondering if you're seeing that similarly. You spoke about one of the stories being someone who had to sort of battle the French state to prove that they're a refugee. So is that sort of evident in where you live in France right now, the presence of migrants?
Yeah, you see a lot of migrants, but they're more, I can't tell if they're refugee-related. It's more like people from the Middle East running from war at the moment. But it's becoming a huge issue. But we were speaking earlier, also it strikes me here in Seattle what a huge issue. It's a different kind of issue, but like you see so many homeless people on the streets as well, and it's, there's obviously a whole nother level of social issues.
Yeah, I mean, so, watching the film and thinking about the statistic you show at the end, and these experiences, both seeing it in our own communities and thinking about how big of a problem this will become in the future, I guess I'm curious when people watch these films and begin to think more about the future climate migrant problem, is there something you hope in terms of policies or preparations to bring about as a change?
Yeah, I'm hoping that climate refugees will receive a status, because so far they don't have one that's universally recognized. And I'm hoping that we can somehow battle this political talk of, go back to where you came from, because for some people there is no place to go back to. So we need to think as a community and society of how we deal with that. It's a massive issue that's not going to disappear for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So, it's been one of the themes talked about tonight, how difficult of a discipline climate storytelling is. In my own work, I know what a challenge it can be. The topic is, it's not just perceived as grim, it often can be very grim. And when we were speaking, last night, you told me that there's a kind of a gap between some of the people you speak to who are like broadcast executives who you're hoping to interest in your series, how they see the kind of stories you're telling, and how young people who watch these work like yours, how they perceive it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I found this catch-22 issue with this series is that we took the pilot episode to a lot of festivals. I think it's been like 30, 40 festivals already. And we talked to different audience groups to see like a test of a project in a way, like a R&D phase. And we saw that teenagers have a lot of interest in it. Like really they like the format, they like the fact that they find all these new facts in an easy way. And then we go to broadcasters and they say, no, this is not entertaining enough. It's too dark, like nobody would watch it, that kind. And then the same broadcasters would say, we don't know how to capture teen audiences. So it's because you vastly underestimate them and what they want to see. And I think, I don't know how to battle this, to be honest, because I think we're going to end up having to show it on online video-on-demand platforms, because classic broadcasters are not. We'll see. We've thought of a new format where we're going to have 3 episodes packaged in a 22-minute version, so that maybe we can go to bigger broadcasters, but we still have this same issue of it's not entertaining enough.
Right. Well, is there a website or a place that people who want to follow your work where they can find you?
Yeah, so for now, it's all on my company website. It's animadocs, as in animationdocumentary.com. And we'll soon have a portal out that's going to be called around Finding Home. I'm not sure exactly what. But it should be out end of the year. So.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Amazing.